and welcome to the Targeted Individual Program, the Targeted Individual Experience. Uh, I'm not on camera tonight. Um, my back hurts, and I don't feel like putting up my green screen backdrop to a background. You know, but today has been quite an interesting day, and I want to talk about these things, and I want TIs to listen to me very carefully because today you guys see what was going on between me and Pam during the week as I've been doing my video talking about what was happening. Well, today we got into a physical altercation. Now, uh, but before I get into that, I want to uh, read this because, again, as TIs, they try to label us as being crazy because they're running a psychological program on us, psyops, to cover up the illegal implantation of microchip for the purpose of remote monitoring, as well as being exposed and hit with directed energy weapon, particularly radio wave and microwave frequency, for the purpose of mind control and to control the minds of the people around us, whether it be in a home, whether it be outside, as well as um, individuals who are given uh, certain types of information about the targets. Now, the target we may not know, we can only speculate, and sometimes they'll try to insinuate certain things by what is called silent subliminal, right? Whether it be the visual tactile fixation drill or um, through the use of silent sound, silent sound, uh, sorry, silent sound spread spectrum technology, right? Beaming voice into your own head, but you're not hearing anybody else's voice. You're hearing your own inner thought. Okay, and it becomes very difficult to distinguish if this is your conscious mind that's telling you this, or it's been artificially induced or introduced into your mind. And so when people like to say coercive persuasion program does not exist, there is plenty of information out there to prove that it does exist, particularly within religious cults. And not just religious cults, but cults, whether it be law enforcement, whether it be business organizational, academia, uh, you know, uh, different industries, whether it be the medical industry, um, you know, psychiatric industry, the prison industry. These types of programs are there. But the one thing that I want TS to understand, because they will try to send you subliminal message about how they're trying to help you, they are not trying to help you. What they're trying to do is manipulate you into committing crimes or committing acts of violence against yourself or somebody else, right? So that they can get away with it. Okay? So let's talk about coercive persuasion and attitude change, right? And this comes from from the website Cult Education Institute. Okay, so coercive persuasion and attitude change. Encyclopedia of Sociology, Volume One, Macmillan Publishing Company, New York, by Richard J. Offshee, PhD. Okay, we're going to talk about this because again, this is very important, and I want, from my experience, like I said, I've always, when I do my videos, it is to document my experiences to also let other TIs see and understand what's going on. This is why I try to narrate as much as I can what I believe is going on. Okay, so coercion, persuasion, and thought reform are alternate names for programs of social influence capable of producing substantial behavior and attitude change through the use of coercive tactics. Persuasion and/or interpersonal or group-based influence manipulation, Shen 1961, Lipton 1961. Such programs have also been labeled brainwashing, Hunter 1951, a term more often used in the media than in scientific literature. However identified, these programs are distinguishable from other elaborate, remember, they are distinguishable. This is why your testimony is so important, right? From other elaborate attempt to influence behavior and attitudes to socialize and to accomplish social control. Their distinguishing features are their totalistic qualities, lived in 1961. And again, this, if you look at the dates of this in which this article is given reference to, this was in 1960s, right? Look at this one, 1951. Okay, so again, information hidden that they don't want people to know, and they will say no such thing exists. I will try to pull up the court case in which the FBI hired two of the top psychologists, psychiatrists to speak on this and then try to discredit them. Okay, so uh, the sensation. Okay, so the types of influence procedures they employed and the organization of their procedure into three distinctive subphases of the overall process. Shen 1961, Oshie, and Singer 1986. The key factor that distinguishes coercive persuasion from other training and socialization schemes are the reliance on intense interpersonal and psychological attacks that destabilize an individual's sense of self to promote compliance. Two, the use of an organized peer group. Three, applying interpersonal pressure to promote conformity. Four, the manipulation of the totality of a person's social environment to destabilize uh, behavior once modified. Thought reform programs have been employed in attempts to control and indoctrinate individual, societal groups, example, intellectual, and even entire population. Again, let me read this. Thought reform programs have been employed in attempts to control and indoctrinate individuals, societal groups, examples, intellectual, and even entire population. Systems intended to accomplish these goals can vary considerably by their construction. Even the first system studied under the label thought reform range from those in which confinement and physical assaults were employed. Shed 1956, Lipton 1954, Lipton 1961, pages 19 to 85, to applications that were carried under non-confined condition, in which non-physical coercion substituted for assault. Lipton 19. Well, I'm not going to read this. Thing. Uh, the individuals to whom these influence programs were applied were in some cases unwilling subjects, prisoner population, and in other cases volunteers who sought to participate in what they believe might be a career beneficial educational experience. Significant differences existed between the social environment and the control mechanism employed in the two types of programs initially studied. Their similarities, however, are of more importance. In understanding their ability to influence behavior and belief that are the difference, and belief that are their differences, they shared a utilization of coercive persuasion key effective influence mechanism, a focused attack on the stability of a person's sense of self, reliance on peer groups interaction, the development of interpersonal bonds between targets and their controllers and peers, and their ability to control communication among participants. Edgar Schund captured the essential similarities between the two types of program in his definition of the coercive persuasion phenomenon. Schund noted that even for prisoners, what happened was a subjection to unusual intense and prolonged persuasion that they could not avoid. Thus, they were coerced into allowing themselves to be persuaded. Programs for both types, confined, assaultive, and non-confined, non-assaultive, cause a range of cognitive and behavioral response. The reported cognitive response varied from apparently rare instances, classifiable as internalized belief change, enduring change, to a frequently observed transient alteration in belief that appears to be situationally adaptive, and finally the reaction of nothing less than firm intellectual resistance and hostility. Okay, the phase situational adaptive belief change refers to attitude change that is not stable and is environment dependent. This type of response to the influence pressure of coercive persuasion program is perhaps the most surprising of the responses that have been observed. The combination of psychological assault on the self, interpersonal pressure, and the social organization of their environment creates a situation that can only be coped with by adaptive and acting so as to present oneself to others in terms of the in terms of the ideology supported in the environment, eliciting the desired verbal and interactive behavior set up conditions likely to stimulate the development of attitudes consistent with and that function to rationalize new behavior in which the individual is engaging. Models of attitude change, such as the theory of cognitive dissonance, Festinger, 1957, or self perception theory, Byrne, 1972, explain the tendencies for consistent attitudes to develop as a consequence of behavior. The surprising aspect of the situational adaptive response is that the attitude that develop were unstable. They tend to change dramatically once the person is removed from the environment that has totalistic properties and is organized to support the adaptive attitude. Once removed from such an environment, the person is able to interact with others who permit and encourage the expression of criticism and doubts, which were previously stifled because of the normative rules of the reformed environment. This pattern of change, first in one direction and then the other, dramatically highlight the profound importance of social support in the explanation of attitude change and stability. This relationship has for decades been one of the principal interests in the fields of social psychology. Statements supportive of the uh, preferred ideology that indicates adaptive attitude change during the period of the target's involvement in the reform environment and immediately following separation should not be taken as mere play acting in reaction to necessities. Targets tend to become generally involved in the interaction. The reform experience focused on genuine vulnerabilities as the method for undermining self concept, manipulating genuine feelings of guilt about past conduct, inducing the target to make public denunciation uh, of his or her prior life as being unworthy, and carrying this forward through interaction with peers from whom the targets develop strong bonds. Involvement developed in these ways prevent the targets from maintaining both psychological distance or emotionally independent from the experience. And see, and this is what they did with me with Pam. Okay, so she became my handler, right? And so what they have done is because the love that I have for her, and then the removal of all uh, or the manipulation of others, so that when we did fall out or have you, um, then they would get women that look like her, parade them in front of me, that sort of thing, playing with my emotions until I develop a not just a, a, a physical bond with her, but a psychological bond as well. Okay. And so I want TIs to understand this, right? So when you meet someone and you tell them that you're a TI and they totally ignore you, they don't seem interested in the fact that you tell them you're a TI, they're not supportive in any way. Um, and at the time, I guess because of my targeting and um, not realizing the depth of how I had been conditioned and was continued to be conditioned, you know, um, and you kind of fall into these sort of traps, right? So the reaction pattern of persons who display adaptive attitude change responses is not one of an immediate and easy rejection of the preferred ideology. This response would be expected if they had been faking their reaction as a conscious strategy to defend against the pressure to which they were exposed. Rather, they appear to be conflicted about the sentiment they develop and their reevaluation of these sentiments. This response has been observed in persons reformed under both confined assaultive and non-confined non-assaultive reform conditions. Self-concept and belief-related attitude change in response to closely controlled social environments have been observed in other organizational settings that, like reform programs, can be classified as total institutions. Thought reform reaction also appears to be related to, but are far more extreme than, responses to the typical less identity assaultive and less totalistic socialization program carried out by organizations with central commitment to specificable ideologies and which undertake the training of social roles, example in the military, academies, and religious indoctrination settings. Let's get something to drink here. I am thirsty. Okay, excuse me. All right, so the relative rare instances in which belief changes are internalized and endured have been analyzed as attributable to the degree to which the acquired belief system and imposed peer relations function fully to resolve the identity crisis that is routinely precipitated during the first phase of the reform process. Whatever the explanation for why some person internalized the preferred ideology in response to the reform procedures, this extreme reaction should be recognized as both atypical and probably attributable to an interaction between long-standing personality traits and the mechanism of influence utilized during the reform process. Much of the attention to reform program was stimulated because it was suspected that a predictable and highly effective method of profoundly changing belief had been designed, implemented, and was in operation. These suspicions are not supported by facts. Programs identified as thought reforming are not very effective to actually changing people's beliefs in any fashion that endure apart from an elaborate from an elaborate supporting social context. Evaluate only on the criterion of their behavior generally to change belief. The program have to be judged abject failures and massive waste of effort. Okay, the programs are, however, uh, impressive in their ability to prepare targets for integration into and long-term participation in the organizations that operate them. Rather than assuming that individual belief change is the major goal of these programs, it is perhaps more productive to view the program as elaborate role training regimes. That is, as re socialization programs in which targets are being prepared to conduct themselves in a fashion appropriate to the societal role they are expected to occupy following conclusion of the training process. Okay? If identified as training programs, it is clear. See, this is why in my targeting, sometimes when I was driving, right, go on the highway somewhere. They do road construction. As soon as there'll be the sign, right, and then the LED signs, and then as soon as I like approach that sign, the word test would appear. Okay, I think I may have a video. that shows this, but this is, I can remember, it was a few years ago, right? Because I have tons of videos. Okay, so the objective then appeared to be behavioral training of the target, which results in an ability to present self, values, aspiration, and past history in a style appropriate to the ideology of the controlling organization. To train and to train an ability to reason in terms of the ideology, and to train a willingness to accept direction from those in authority with minimum apparent resistance. Belief changes that follow from successful coercion or inducing the person to behave in a prescribed manner can be thought of as byproducts of the training experience. As attitude change model would predict, they arise naturally as a result of effort to reshape behavior. The technical dimension most clearly distinguishing reform processes from other sorts of training program is the reliance on psychological coercion, procedures that generally pressure to comply as a means of escaping a punishment experience. Example, public humiliation, sleep deprivation, guilt manipulation. Again, I've shown you guys all these things, and I want to show you some of them tonight, okay, on this video, right? Coercion, different from other influencing factors, also presented in thought reform, such as content-based persuasive attempt. Example, presentation of new information, a reference to authorities' example, or reliance on influence variables operative in all interaction, status relations, demeanor, normal assertiveness, differentials, etc. Coercion is coercion is inf- coercion is principally utilized to gain behavioral compliance at key points and to ensure participation in activities likely to have influencing effect. That is, to engage the person in the role training activities and in procedures likely to lead to strong emotional responsive, to cognitive confusion, and to attribution to self as a source of belief promoted during the process. Robert Lipton labeled the extraordinary high degree of social control characteristics of organizations that operate reform programs as their totalistic qualities. Lipton, 1961. This concept referred to the mobilization of the entirety of the person's social and often physical environment in support to the manipulative effort. Lipton identified 8 themes or properties of thought. I'm sorry, of reform environment that contributes to their totalistic qualities. One, control of communication. Two, emotional and behavioral manipulation. Three, demands for absolute conformity to behavior prescription derived from the ideology. Four, excessive demand for confession. Five, agreement that the ideology is faultless. Six, manipulation of language in which cliches substitute for analytical thoughts. Seven, reinterpretation of human experience and emotions in terms of doctrine. And eight, classification of those not sharing the ideology as inferior and not worthy of respect. Okay. Um, eight, I don't. That doesn't apply to me in that setting because they don't want me sharing this information at all. So then they'll attack me anytime I put a video out about what it is that they're doing, if I'm sure what it is that they're doing. Okay. Shen's analysis of behavioral sequence underlying coercive persuasion separate the process into 3 subphrases: unfreezing, change, and refreezing. Phrases differ in their principal goals and their admixtures of persuasive, influencing, and coercive tactics. Although others have described the process differently, their analyses are not inconsistent with Shen's 3 phase breakdown. Although Shen terminology is adopted here, the description of phase activities have been broadened to reflect later research. Unfreezing is the first attempt in eliciting behavior and developing a belief system that facilitates the long-term management of a person. It consists of attempting to undercut a person's psychological basis for resisting demands for behavioral compliance to the routine and ritual of the reform program. The goal of unfreezing are to destabilize a person's sense of identity, to participate in an identity crisis, to diminish confidence in prior social judgment, and to foster a sense of powerlessness, if not hopelessness. Successful destabilization induced a negative shift in global self evaluation and increase uncertainty about one's value and position in society, if thereby reduce resistance to the new demand for compliance while increasing suggestibility. Destabilization of identity is accomplished by bringing into play various sets of manipulative techniques. The first program to be studied utilized techniques such as repeatedly demonstrating a person's inability to control his or her own fate, the use of degrading ceremonies, attempts to induce reevaluation of the adequacy and or proprietary of prior conduct, and techniques designed to encourage the reemergence of latent feeling of guilt and emotional turmoil. Contemporary programs have been observed to utilize far more psychologically sophisticated procedure to accomplish destabilization. These techniques are often adapted from a tradition of psychiatry, psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, and human potential movement as well as from religious practice. The change phase allowed the individual an opportunity to escape punishment and destabilization procedures by demonstrating that he or she has learned the preferred ideology, can demonstrate an ability to interpret reality in its own term, and is willing to participate in competition with peers to demonstrate zeal. Though displays of commitment, this in addition to study and or formal instruction, the techniques used to facilitate learning and the skill bases that can lead to opinion change include scheduling events that have predictable influencing consequences, rewarding certain conduct, and manipulating emotions to create punishing experiences. Right? So again, manipulating your emotions. Now, think of this with the technology that they've developed, particularly silent sound spread spectrum, and where they can manipulate you without you even knowing it, without you're thinking that it is your own thoughts are telling you to do things, and they will do certain things that they may you may go out to eat, they may drug your your drink, right? Or put you in a situation where you can be it can be detrimental to your own sense of being or to that person, and then to use that person to try to um, file some or to try to blackmail you, I would say, into doing this what they want you to do. Whether they what type of behavior they want you to engage in, whether it be homosexual behavior, whether it be promiscuous sex or other things, right? And these are things that they tried to do with me. Okay, and so we just have to be aware of it, and also that too. But trying and then would get people to target you in order to gin up anger and frustration, in the hopes that you will lose it, as they would say, and physically assault someone. Okay, so group structures often. Where am I here? Where I go? Okay, so some of the practices designed to promote influence might include requiring the target to assume responsibility for the process of less advanced students to become the responsibility of those further along in the program, to assume the role of a teacher of the ideology and or to develop ever more refined and detailed confession statement that recast the person's former life in terms of their required uh, ideological position. Group structure is often manipulated by making reward or punishment for an entire peer group contingent on the performance of the weakest person, requiring the group to utilize a vocabulary appropriate to the ideology, making status and privilege change commensurated with behavioral compliance, subjecting the target to strong criticism and humiliation from peers, for lack of progress, and peer monitoring for expressions of reservation or dissent. If process is unsatisfactory, the individual can again be subjected to the punishing destabilization procedure used during unfreezing to determine identity or humiliate and to provoke feeling of shame and guilt. Refreezing denotes an attempt to promote and reinforce behavior acceptable to the controlling organization. Satisfactory performance is rewarded with social approval, status gains, and small privileges. Okay, so listen here, right? Satisfactory performance is rewarded with social approval, status gains, and small privileges. Right? So, for example, when they want to try to get me to uh, shut up about my targeting, from time to time they will send a beautiful young woman in front of me, and she would like stare at me, you know, and the thought in my mind of saying hello to her, but I know this is not my own thought. This is uh, you know, this is their projection into my mind, right? So I'm able to recognize those things, okay, particularly in that manner and how it is being done, because it's been done to me many times that I recognize when it's happening. So the combination of reinforced approved behavior and interpreting its symbolic meaning as demonstrating the emergence of a new individual fosters the development of an environment specific, supportedly reborn social identification. The person is encouraged to claim this identity and is rewarded for doing so. One of the things I like to add here, because again, this is from my experience with this early on, and how they were trying to get me to act negative by offering me rewards. Okay. And whenever I would do something positive, okay, the punishment would be severe targeted, right? So, for example, if a person bumped into me in the street, right, and I just kind of move out the way, and the person say sorry. Well, they don't say sorry, but they just move out the way. I just move out the way. I just like, okay, whatever, yeah, keep walking. They will target me, right? But if I yell at somebody, right, then somebody will come out, with money in their hand, counting large stack of cash in front of me, okay, because they were attempting to create a negative personality within me. But had I not had the self awareness to understand at that point, at that moment, and this was like years after my targeting began overtly, that I just started from reading and started to realize something that was happening. And I realized that, yeah, they were trying to program me into acting negative, right? With the idea of having positive reward outcomes. Okay. And so, and particularly when you're also bombarded with the technology silence on spectrum, it gets you get confused. You get confused, you get headaches. That's when I started getting these ice pick headaches. They were so severe at times that if I'm driving, I really have to stop, okay, because they're so severe. All right. And I still get them from time to time. It's not as regularly as I usually used to get them like, 2 3 times a week. Okay, and that went on for years. Okay, so uh, lengthy participation in an appropriately constructed and managed environment foster peer relations. This interaction history and other behavior consistent with a public identity that incorporates approved values and opinion, promoting the development of an interaction history in which persons engage in cooperative activity with peers that is not blatantly coerced and in which they are encouraged but not forced to make verbal claims to truly understanding the ideology and having been transformed will tend to lead them to conclude that they hold belief consistent with their actions. Example, i.e., to make attribution to self as a source of their behaviors. Okay? These reinforcement procedures can result in a significant degree of cognitive confusion and an alteration in what the person takes to be his or her beliefs and attitudes while involved in a controlled environment. Okay? So this is why they don't want you to venture out of your neighborhood. Or if you're a TI, you do go someplace, you're very limited in where you're going because not also do they have you economically constrained, they have you um, constrained in your neighborhood, constrained in your house or your apartment, or if you're homeless, constrained in a certain area. Okay, so again, um, you know, this is what they do, and they've been doing it for a long time, right? And they've been getting away with it. Okay, and they may try to use this investigation as a legitimate uh, theme, right? But we know, I mean, seriously, we know the history of this government, the history of the law enforcement, what they have done, what they continue to do, how they lie and manipulate, and I'm going to show some examples, you know, in this video, okay? So that you know that I'm not making this up. Like I said, anything I talk about, okay, especially with my targeting, I'll show you, I'll explain it to you, not also that, when I talk about technologies of psychological manipulation that takes place within my mind by these evil ass people, okay, I'm going to give you the information. Okay, so continuing use of refreezing procedure can sustain the expression of what appears to be significant attitude change for long periods of time, maintaining compliance with a requirement that the person display behavior significant signifying unreserved acceptance of an imposed ideology and regaining other forms of long term behavioral control requires continuous effort. The person must be carefully managed, monitored, and manipulated through peer pressure, the threat or use of punishment, material, social, emotional, and through the normative rules of the community. Example, expectation prohibiting career independence of the organization, prohibited information of independent nuclear families, prohibited accumulation of significant personal economic resources. Okay, so I just talked about that, right? How they have you economically deprived. Okay, and when if you live with family members that are prohibited formation of independent nuclear family, they get your family to target you so that they cause separation, right? And in terms of and distress. Okay, the rate at which a once attained level of attitude change deteriorates depend on the type of social support the person receives over time. In keeping with the refreezing metaphor, even when the reform process is to some degree successful at shaping behavior and attitudes, the new shape tends to be maintained only as long as temperature is appropriately controlled. One of the essential components of the reform process in general and the long-term refreezing in particular is monitoring and limiting the context of communication among persons in the managed group. If successfully accomplished, communication control eliminates a person's ability safely to express criticism or to share private doubts and reservation. The result is to confer on the community the quality of being a spy system of the whole upon the whole. The typically observed complex of communication controlling rules require people to self report critical thoughts to authorities or to make doubts known only in approved and readily managed settings. Small groups or private counseling session admitting negativity leads to punishment or reindoctrination through procedures sometimes euphemistically termed education or therapy. Individual social isolation is furthered by rules requiring peers to help colleagues to progress by reporting their expression of doubt. It is if it is discovered, like failure to make a report is punishable because it reflects on the whole level of, see, punishable, you heard the car honking. uh, it reflects on the whole level of commitment of the person who did not help a colleague to make progress. Controlling communication effectively blocks individuals from testing the appropriateness of privately held critical perception against the views of even their families and most valued associate. Communities norms encourage doubters to interpret lingering reservations as sign of a personal failure to comprehend the truth of the ideology. If involved with religious organization, to interpret doubt as evidence of sinfulness of the result of demonic influence. If involved with the organization delivering a uh, supposed psychological or medical therapy as evidence of continuing illness and or failure to progress in treatment. The significant communication control is illustrated by the collapse of a large psychotherapy organization in immediate reaction to the leadership loss of effective control over interpersonal communication. At a meeting of several hundred of the members of this therapeutic community, clients were allowed openly to voice privately held reservation about their treatment and exploitation. They have been subjected to abusive practices, which include assault, sexual, and economic exploitation, extremes of public humiliation, and others. When members discovered the extent at which their sentiment about these practices was shared by their peer, they rebel. Okay, so I'm not gonna go on. There's just a lot here to read. Um, I'm gonna let you guys read this yourself. Again, you can find this on the website culteducation.com. And what the law enforcement has done is built a cult, okay, strictly for the psychological manipulation, the psychological destruction, as well as the economic, social, educational, right, physical destruction of those who they target. And who do they target? Those people who are put into non consensual human experimentation programs, whistleblowers, okay, those that may those that they are seeking revenge for whatever reason, those that they are trying to destroy because of jealousy and envy. Okay, because we know that when it comes to policing, particularly law enforcement and the security agencies, the type of mentality that these individuals have and perpetuate is that of what is called the dark triad, the dark triad personality. Okay, so let me move on here, and here is I'm gonna get to that later. Here's the FBI article talks about the FBI has a racism problem and it hurts our nation, right? And this is August 19, 2020. Now, we all know this. We talk about from the days of Contra Pro, with the FBI targeted black nationalist groups, but not only black nationalist groups, but also black civil rights leaders, civil rights activists, black bookstores, black people in general. Okay? So, I'm going to just read a few paragraphs here, right? As studies of ISIS brutally in the Middle East began filing news circle of 2014, there was an uptick in coverage describing four ISIS plot in the United States. The FBI seemed to be finding young men about to fly to Syria, blow up parades, or take hostage at a bar every week, every few weeks. Sensationalist media coverage and headlines tend to obscure that there was often no ISIS involvement at all. Instead, FBI agents posing as ISIS online and in person helped men who were often mentally ill, okay, mentally ill, concoct and buy supplies for domestic terrorist attack. Now, I'm going to pause it because earlier on in my targeting, this was after 9/11, might have been a year or two after 9/11. I'm walking to the store and there was a van that was never parked. And in this van, it looked like two Muslim brothers. They look like they're Middle Eastern, not black Muslim, but Middle Eastern Muslim, or the lighter complexion with the straight hair, you know. And one of them called me, and I thought something was suspicious. Like, why are they double park there, just sitting there, in the dark, right? And so I just shook my head and I kept walking because I was going to the store. Okay, I went to the store, and when I came out the store and walked back, they were gone. Okay, so again, these things is what they do. I told you the story, you guys, about how when they started to severely target me at my job. I was walking home, and this person that I went to high school with, called me. And again, they do this stuff. There's like nobody around, nobody on the block, and it wasn't that late. I think about maybe like 10 o'clock or so. Nobody on the block, nobody outside. He calls me over, open the trunk of his car, pulls out a box, open the box, and he shows me a gun. He's like, check this out. This is a nice, brand new, 9mm with two clips. I didn't even touch it. I was like, looks nice, man, but I gotta go, you know, because prior to that encounter, I went onto a website called JHBL or JBHL, something like that. And this was a TI. He's talking about how they tried to entrap you if you're a TI, what have you, because he has an uncle who was an FBI agent and who told him that listen, you need to document everything. And so he started documenting stuff. And a lot of things that was on his website, he was basically what I had went through. At least some of it was at what I had went through. You know. And sadly, I don't know what happened to that website. I don't know if it's still around. I tried looking for it, but I couldn't find it. But going on that website had saved me many times because I understand what was happening to me at going forward. Okay, and the traps that they were laying before me. Okay, so many of the okay, wait, I need to finish reading here. Okay, so in 2016, the New York Times found that about two-thirds of prosecution involving suspected ISIS supporters included evidence from undercover operations. These undercover stings operations were clear case of entrapment with far-reaching implications. So, before entrapment used to be against the law. Okay, and I'm sure many of us didn't even know that they had changed the law to now where the police can actually entrap you now. Okay, and particularly when they go into communities of color, particularly poor neighborhoods where the people have nothing, where a significant portion of that population has mental illness or suffer from some form of mental illness, they know who to target. They prey on the poor, on the downtrodden, the weakened individuals because of their socioeconomic status, because of their horrible environment in which they live in, the high crime, high poverty, right? And they do this because, again, these are the Machiavellian type personalities. They are sociopaths, psychopaths, and I'm sorry, the dark triads: sociopath, psychopaths, and the Machiavellian personality types, right? So they do that because they need to feel good. They need to feel big and bad, like they're doing something. Okay? They're not really going after terrorists. They're going after poor people, right? And then making them look as if they're terrorists by manipulating them. And particularly when you're manipulating people who don't have the cognitive or the intellectual ability, right, to make informed decisions or to think as a person with a normal IQ or average or whatever IQ have. Okay, so FBI sting operation perpetuated the agency's no, hang on, sorry, they obscured the actual level of the international terrorist threat in the United States, led to miscalculation in foreign policy, and minimized the terrorist threat posed by domestic far right groups. FBI sting operations perpetuate the agency's long history of minorities and immigrant targeting, expand its unjust monitoring and surveillance program, blur the line between programs aimed at improving law enforcement relationship with minorities, okay, minorities, all right. So all you black people participating in this shit, like I said, it's gonna come a time when your ass is gonna be in it too. The reinforce force racial bias in American law enforcement at the time when far right and white supremacist violence is increasing. The best solution to address these challenges may not be to extend law enforcement to white population, but instead to rethink how we believe about the process of radicalizations and limit law enforcement surveillance and encroachment on free speech rights. Okay? FBI sting operations and entrapment. Many of the FBI sting operations target people who would never have been a threat if not coaxed by FBI agents. Take the case of Emmanuel Luckman, a black panhandler with a long history of mental health problems. The FBI informant at a local mosque sought him out shortly after he converted to Islam. The FBI agent posing as ISIS concocted a plot with Lutchman to conduct a stabbing and a hostage-taking operation at a restaurant in Rochester, New York on New York Eve to have sufficient cause for arrest and then charge him. Law enforcement had to catch him with the equipment needed to carry out his attack. Lutchman did not have the money to buy the zip ties, duct tape, ski mask, and knives required to plan. The FBI informant gave him $40 and drove him to Walmart to buy the supply. So, although Lutchman was never actually in contact with ISIS, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. News coverage of an ISIS New York plot rocked the nation. Although those did not read beyond most headlines, never had a chance to see that ISIS played no role in the plot. Instead, a man who couldn't afford a ride to Walmart became another reason for America to fear ISIS attack on the homeland. Okay? And what really kills me is that black people would believe these criminals in badges who have been attacking us, who have been our predators, okay, our predators, right? Which is again, lack of information, ignorance. What is it? My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Yeah, you can see the position we as black people are in, right? And that's coming straight from the Bible that black people read. Okay, so FBI informant have repeatedly targeted young men of color at the margins of their community. In 2015, an FBI informant reached out to Harlem Suez, a Cuban American who suffered multiple head injuries, on Facebook and helped him plan a bombing in Florida. When Suez tried to back out, the FBI informant continued to pressure him. Suez was eventually caught with the equipment to carry out the bombing and now served a life sentence. In another 2015 case, Peyton Pewitt, an 18-year-old who had been diagnosed with autism and couldn't tie his own shoes, was charged with terrorism for sending bomb-making instructions to someone he believed was a member of ISIS. In 2013, FBI informant posing as jihadist online worked with a 17-year-old high school student to attack the bar in Chicago. Now, you think they don't know who they're targeting? You think they don't know who they are recruiting? They know. Our community is under surveillance 24/7. Our pictures are taken. Every single one of us, black people, picture is in some FBI file folder, database somewhere. Okay. So in 2009, the Newburgh Four, a group of four black Muslims in New York, was sentenced to 25 years in prison after an FBI informant helped them concoct a plan to fire Stinger missiles at U.S. military planes and bomb a synagogue. The four men were impoverished and had previous history of drug charges and mental illness. Laguerre Payne, one of the Newburgh Four, kept vials of his own urine in his apartment. The FBI informant had promised one of the men, James Comite, $250,000, a new BMW, and a trip to Puerto Rico, and a barbershop if he carried the plot. The judge who sentenced the four criticized the FBI tactics, stating only the government could have made a terrorist out of Mr. Comite. Okay, a man whose buffoonery is positively Shakespearean in its scope. I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that there would have been no crime here except the government instigated it, planned it, and brought it to fruition. The four had little knowledge of Islam, and the informant often took to coaching them on the tenets of Islamic concept. The FBI informant had fraud conviction in the United States and earned, listen to this, he had this FBI foreman had fraud conviction in the United States. So just to tell you who a lot of these informants are, right? They're criminals themselves, okay? And had earned 100,000 from the FBI for this operation. The foreman, uh, in 2014, the foreman lost their appeal to have their case considered a case of legal entrapment. So even when the judge is saying this, they still, uh, you know, lost their appeal, right? America. Okay, that's to tell you. As a black person, yeah, this is America. All right. So anyway, I'm not gonna read all of this. You guys can read it for yourself. This is from the Georgetown Security Studies Review .org. The article is titled "The FBI Has a Racial Problem and It Hurts Our Nation's Security." Okay, there's another one from the Guardian: Fake terrorist plots. Again, talking about the FBI. I'm not going to Uh, let me actually let me read this one here. So David Williams did not have an easy life. He moved to Newburgh, a gritty, impoverished town in the banks of the Hudson, an hour or so north of New York. At just 10 years old, for a young black American boy with a father in jail, trouble was everywhere. William also made bad choices. He ended up going to jail for dealing drugs. When he came out in 2007, he tried to go straight, but money was tight, and his brother, Lord, needed cash for a liver transplant. Life is hard in Newburgh if you're poor, have a drug rap, and need cash quick. His aunt, Alicia McWilliams, was honest about the tough streets her nephew was dealing with. Newburgh is a hard place, she said. It was perhaps no surprise that in May 2009, David Williams was arrested again and hit with a 25-year jail sentence. But it was not for drug offenses or any of the common crime. Instead, William and three other men, local. Okay, this is what we're okay. Yeah. So Williams and three other struggling local men, beset by drug, criminal, and mental health issue, were convicted of an Islamic terrorist plot to blow up Jewish synagogue and shoot down military jets with missiles. Even more shocking was that the organization, money, weapons, and motivation for this plot did not come from real Islamic terrorists. It came from the FBI and an entrapment paid to pose as a terrorist mastermind and paying big bucks to help in carrying out an attack. For McWilliams, her own government had actually cajoled and paid her beloved nephew into being a terrorist, create a fake plot, and then jail him for it. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone, she told the Guardian. Now, again, these still happen all the time, but not just the FBI. We talk about local police department who will, you have racist police officers paying informants either with drug or money, right, to just blame or say this person sold me drugs, go in, you know, bust down people's door, people get killed, people get thrown in there. They'll even plant drugs if no drugs to find. Okay, yeah. So listen, I know they hate me doing these things and doing these videos, but yeah, they try to basically demonize my name, destroy my name and my character by psychologically manipulating me by using uh, directed energy weapon to manipulate me, implanting me with a microchip, okay, for remote neural monitoring, right? Lying, using civilian population to drug, poison me, okay, and then try to blackmail me. And I'm supposed to be quiet? Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, seriously. And then use the the mothers of my children, okay, to try to, well, the first one put me in jail, okay, simply for knocking on her door, and then try to use that to uh, get me to drop the custody um, case I had in family court because she sent my son out of the country uh, less than a year old without telling me, and she sent him there for a month. So in order for the judge to not give her custody, not give me custody, the police and her concocted manipulated me to go knock on her door and arrest me. Okay, and then on top of that, sending me subliminal message that he wasn't my son. you know. Okay, yeah. So did I close that? Okay, so here is from the Intercept. And this is a very interesting document. You guys can go and read up on it. This is how the FBI recruits and handles its army of informants. So it says the FBI has about 15,000. Many of the FBI confidential human sources are immigrants, and the Bureau has been accused of leveraging immigration status to bend the will of the reluctant recruits. So you guys better be careful out there when you meet someone who is an immigrant and don't have their papers. Okay, they use them as a honey trap, men or women or female, all right, male or female. Okay, and then try to get them to accuse you of a crime. And it's not just uh, immigrants, but it's women and men. They'll give them jobs, positions and jobs. They might give them certain benefits, right? They may give them a low percentage loan on an expensive car, low mortgage rate, right? Or they may give them gift cards with money on it, okay? Like the Visa card, a little Visa card that you there's a certain amount of money. That way, the money can be traced back to them, okay? And we also had a situation where the MIPD, okay, was using a fund. Was it MIPD? Was using a using funds from an account that was not registered. Okay, so I should tell you how they get paid. Now see if I can uh, find that article. Okay, let's see. Uh, NYPD. Sorry, come on. Okay, for some reason my keyboard doesn't want to work. Okay, I don't know what's going on here, but my keyboard, for whatever reason, does not want to work. Okay, here we go. All right. So NYPD use money from unaccounted yeah. Let's see. Okay. Okay, let's see. Use NYPD use secret money. Let's try that. Okay, it's RET. Come on. Okay, so here you go. I'm not sure this is it, but this from 2017. The Daily News report. Um, Exclusive NYPD vendor received nearly $390 million from budget shrouded in secret. Okay, so right, $390 million shrouded in secrecy, and even the department says it's not sure why. Okay, to tell you guys, I'm not making this shit up when I talk about this stuff. Okay, I'm not making this up. Okay, all right. So about 92% of the police department 4.87 billion budget goes to personal costs, salaries and benefits for the 36,000 cops and 18,000 civilian members of the nation's largest police force. Now, who are these 18,000 civilian members? Okay, are these their neighborhood snitches? Okay, the remaining 8%. 38 uh, 389.6 million is vetted and documented by controller Scott Stinger, but when each expenditure appears on the city transparency website, checkbooknyc.com, the name of the vendor getting paid is listed as NAR, not available. Says neither Stinger nor the MIPD could explain why complete details on police expenses are routinely withheld. And this is not the only thing. I'm not going to continue reading this because I have videos to show. Okay, but the use of technology, the use of technology that they constantly lie about. Okay, the use of technology that they constantly lie about. All right. So this, you guys know this is my favorite website, right? Because it literally gives you the playbook and what is being done. Okay, so I'm going to just leave that up here in the background as I get to doing the video. Okay, and again, this is very very important. Gee, I didn't even realize the video was this long. Well, anyway, let's get to the video. So what happened today? Okay,
All right, so me and Pam just had it out.
okay, let me. So Pam came out from the grocery store shop. On her way home, she calls me. And she does this from time when she goes to go shopping. Not all the time, but whenever they want her to target me. And she's calling me, she's telling me she's on her way home. But she starts having this long, drawn out conversation. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So then she says, oh, there is there's an Audi that's weaving in and out of traffic, what have you, blah blah blah. This Audi, what have you. So right then I knew what they were doing is now what's called a power association. Right? In the previous video that I did, series video, you'll see I was walking home after getting off the bus, and there was this young guy in a blue Audi. He was playing with his hair. He looked over at me, started playing with his hair, with the grenade and flag on it. Again, using the deportation theme with the Audi. So for her calling me and telling me that, oh, this Audi weaving in and out of truck, I knew that she was going to target me when she get home. Right? She got in the house and helped her unpack the groceries. Okay. And as I helped her unpack the groceries, she started targeting me, doing these hand signals and stuff, right? I didn't say anything, and I kept my calm and everything. We got upstairs. I took a shower because I was sweaty to, get ready to come home. And I said, Pamela, can I talk to you for a minute? She's like, oh, I'm putting in this. I said, I just need a minute. So, like the many times I've done before, called her into her bedroom and closed the door and spoke to her about how targeted, right? And she's like, well, I'm not doing nothing. This and that. I said, yes, you are. No, I'm not. I said, Pamela, yes, you are. I'm telling you that you are. Well, what am I doing? So I showed her. And again, time and time, I have to explain to her every time. And the shit is getting tired. You know, because she does the same thing, and I tell her the same thing when she does the palm fixation drill. Okay, the she'll like open something like a bowel, and again, she does it only when she's targeting me in this particular manner. Well, she like open up something and she'll take her pointed finger, right, and when you open a bottle, how you will take your whole hand, you'll make like a fist, like kind of like no, not really a fist, but you use your pointer finger and your thumb, but all your fingers are closed over the bottle cap to open it. What she'll do is she'll stick her pointed finger. This is the finger before your thumb, right? She'll leave that sticking out and then use the other fingers with her thumb to open up the bottle, right? The bottle cap. And particularly if she's wearing a certain color. So she'll do if she's wearing white, she'll do it a lot. If she's wearing gray, she doesn't do it as much. If she's wearing gray nail polish, she doesn't do it as much. She may only do it maybe if I leave or she if I said to her I'm leaving, then she start sticking out her pointing finger more when I say I leave because she don't want me to leave, right? So I noticed recently what she's been doing for the past uh, 3 weeks was she's been using negative reinforcement and then followed with positive reinforcement to try to get me not to leave. So she would target me negatively, and then or she would target me in which my conditioning, right, and my mind is interpreting it negatively. The trigger is a negative trigger, a negative feeling, a negative thought pattern. And then when I say I'm leaving, then she'll try to follow it up with a positive uh, um, reinforcement, you know, so to try to nullify the negative feeling, which again, you know, try to nullify the flight or fight phenomenon. Okay, so I noticed that. So when she came home, like I said, I talked to her. I said, "Listen, you stop doing this." She's like, "Well, I'm not doing nothing." I said, "Listen, you know what?" I said, "I'm not coming in for the rest of the week because right now I don't feel comfortable. I'm talking to you, you're not listening to me, and you're back on this. Oh, I'm not doing." I said, about a month ago, when I said to you, you was like, "Okay, I'll watch what I do. I'll try to be more conscious." And she was like, "Well, why do I gotta always gotta watch? I gotta do all of this and I gotta walk with my hands in front of me." I said, "Pam, don't even do that." Because there are times she come in the house where she's targeting me after she's done with her negative reinforcement, and she would put her hands in her pocket and she'd walk around the apartment with her hands in her pocket. Like, who does that? Okay. So, so she was, so I was like, okay, conversation is finished, what have you. Then she brought up again. She's like, oh, she called me an asshole and all this stuff and getting in my face and, got spit all in my face and everything like that. And so I pushed her away. So she started like literally punching me, right? So I pushed her away again. And she went off. She punched me in my chin, what have you. I'm trying to block her, you know, and like I said, I didn't even throw any punches at her. I'm just, trying to block the punches that she's getting. And then she said to me, "Oh, uh, do you know I can kill you, right? Do you know I can kill you? You in my house, I can kill you." Okay, and I was like, wow. I was like, wow. Okay, so here, oh, I'm sorry.
And I had to refrain myself. I really did have to refrain myself. Okay, talk about, oh, I can kill you.
Let's go back here.
I just had it out. Really, really big fight. She was all in my face. I pushed her away. She came at me, pushed her. She started like throwing hands, and I had to refrain myself. I really did have to refrain myself. Okay, talk about, oh, I can kill you. I'm like, really? Oh, I can kill you. You forgot who I. You don't know me. I can kill you. Fuck, I like fuck out of here. Yeah, look at this
So
guy.
you'll see that this guy comes over when he's because again they signal to him. They send him a message say, "Oh, he's coming out, what have you." So he waited across the street until he sees me comes out. Then he runs over to get in his vehicle. Okay. Now again, normally again because when you're a target, they these are things that they do. First, they condition you to colors. So he's wearing yellow with an orange shirt. Okay. And remember how I talked about years ago, many years ago, and I targeted with my nephew and his girlfriend came over and wanted to watch Daybreak with the comic and the orange jumpsuit. I'm like, I don't pay attention to that shit because again, this is just psychological threats, right? And but they will try to manipulate you into getting into a physical altercation so they can try to because again, like I said, they want to get rid of you, right? Because you are the evidence, of what it is that they're doing, and they don't want to be held accountable, right? So
All right. So, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like I told her, I said, Pam, stop targeting me. Oh, it's all in your head. You're crazy. I said, first of all,
right,
you're not going to fool.
so she the thing is that she'll turn around and call me crazy. But then when I said to her, Pamela, all these years we've been together, and you see the emotional state I was in when I was looking for you for some comfort, for some understanding. You just ignore me and tell me that you didn't believe me, and you just go lock yourself in your room. Okay? I said, and you see how I was like an emotional wreck, right? But you was telling me that you don't believe me. And when things happen to you, you tell me about it. I don't turn around and say I don't believe you, right? Well, maybe I should start not believing you because you've lied so much, that I can't take what you say as being honest and truthful. And you've already said to me that you don't value honesty and truthfulness like I do, and you will take your lies and your secret to your grave, right? So yeah,
Me because I know about this program, okay?
yeah, and I told her, I said, listen, you're not gonna fool me because I know about this program, and just the things that I see with her during the years, like I said, uh, a year out of uh, nursing school, a year into her job, a year after her job, she gets a position as the head of uh, uh, the cardiovascular department, or the cardiovascular. I'm not even sure I'm saying it right, but I'm gonna say cardio department, right? Making six figures. Then on top of that, last year she left a piece of paper out to state that she was getting uh, uh, food stamps, right? So, like I said, and these are the people that are in law enforcement that got the hookups within the uh, other government agencies, and this is how they're being paid. Okay, so yeah, you know, and like I said, because the way how she is, she's tired all the time. She leaves shit all over the place and forget. She's always leaving shit that I can that to let me know.
You know about this program.
She doesn't do it purposely, but
So
yeah.
you ain't
So
fooling me. I actually stopped many a times. I said to you,
okay,
hey,
let me
it's a shame this
because
shit.
I want to get
She's
here,
like,
right?
oh,
Watch this.
you're seeing things all in your head and this
Let me
and
play
that.
all this stuff a little
I'm
bit.
like, yeah, whatever, fam.
Okay, so look
Whatever.
at look at this couple in front, right? I want you to see right here. Okay, see what he did? Okay, all right. So sorry here. Let's go back here, right? Because again, this is all synchronized movement, orchestrated. They know I'm coming. This is I want to say this is the microwave at work here, but I'm not certain. Okay, I'm not certain. But again, so let's see. So there you go. So there's the palm fixation drill, right? Because they had Pam targeting until we get into a physical altercation, right? So now you see he does the palm fixation drill, right? Which is what she was doing, you know. She does it all the time. Okay. Now he's gonna grab
Yeah.
a hole and a
You
button,
know?
right? As to say, uh, ass. For example, when I was earlier in my targeting, when I used to go to work, I would step up my apartment, walk down the block. This is one of the things that they would do, and they would have like some woman, right? As soon as I come out and I turn, she will bend down in front of me, and then the word ass would pop out of my mind, like loud, like you're screaming in your mind. And again, I knew that that wasn't me because before I became a target, I never thought like that. People would bend down in front of me. That's fine. I would never I'd never used to say those things. So I know it's because of my psychological manipulation that they've done prior to me becoming a target. This is what was happening. Okay, that they have put those in place. And then you'll see her here, and what she's doing, she's touching this gate, right? She's touching this gate, right? And then he goes back again with the palm fixation drill. Now, what's the color of this gate? Is gray, right?
So
And there he goes again. Watch. Okay.
that's it. Like I said, I'm done. Fuck that. Talk about the whole world is
And
against you.
literally, what he does is that he takes his middle finger and like sticks it in his
Yeah,
butt.
the whole
Okay. So he grabs a butt,
world's gonna be
and then he goes back.
against you too.
Okay.
Fuck out of here. So it's a shame this should have to come down to this. Yeah, I thought.
And you see what he starts doing was snapping his finger, taking his thumb and his middle finger and snapping it, and then turns it back around, turns his hands back around, and do the palm fixation together as he's
I
standing
said, listen, I've tried. I've asked you to stop.
there.
You
Okay. Takes his hat off, lays his hand on his head.
won't stop. That job that got that they paying you well. So I guess you don't give a shit, right? You don't give a shit about my mental health. You're just worried about that money, right? Right? You know what I'm saying? And that's what they do. And you
And that's what it is. And, even in the black community, where you have, um, and again, this what's happening with me is part of a broader implication in terms of what's happening to us as black men and black women, and how black women are conditioned. So when they talk about how they can't find a man, they can find a man. They just don't want. They have a certain particular man that they want, right? But there isn't enough of those men to go around. So they think that if they get a man that's making less, then they settle it, right? And that's bad because the church had told them you have to be equally yoked, right? This is what the church is telling them. That's why a lot of them is flocking to the church, hoping that they'll find those six-figure men in church. But those, either those men that go to church, either they're married, and the ones that are single don't go in the churches because they know exactly the mentality of those women, those single black women. Okay, and I'm not bashing black women. I'm just explaining how it is that they are conditioned into remaining single. This is part of the white supremacist agenda to separate black men and black women from each other.
Programs, how they pay these people off, and they do it like this, giving them jobs and positions, paying a lot of money.
Okay, so let's
Okay, talk about that's why the whole world is against you. Like, why would she say some shit like that,
oh,
right?
curiosity.
Just like a lot of black women, they always come in your
So
face because
so
they
so
want to
this
think
guy
that.
right here. So you see this guy right here? Again, we're going to. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna break things down, man. I'm gonna break it down because it needs to be broken down in a way.
Like I said, I don't hit women, but she came in my face,
So let's see what's happening
all
here.
up in my face, and I'm like, yo,
Okay.
get out of
So the guy comes, stands up here. You see, is a Asian guy. The black woman that's in front, she
my
pinches
face.
his ear with her mask. See that?
Yeah.
She sticks her hands in her ears.
Just like a lot of black women, they always come in your face because they want to think that they got a bigger dick than you.
She swipes up against
All
her
right, so I
face.
pushed her.
So now you see the Asian guy, right? You'll see where he positions his hand, as she doesn't as he's turning away. Look where his hands is at. His hands is down on his pants, touching his crotch, right, or his penis, I should say.
Just like a lot of black
Then he turns, right?
women, they always
She then brush her hair to the side. Okay, as this is going on, this guy in the yellow shirt, right, on the scooter. Now he's looking at the guy in this yellow shirt on the scooter. Again, the use of
come in your
color.
face because they want to think that they got a bigger dick than you.
Listen, I ain't yellow. Okay, I spent many years studying this program because it's a fear-based program. So if they're fear-based conditioning you, you're gonna be fearful. Okay, there's nothing you can do unless you understand what's being done to you, how it's being done. Okay,
All right, so
so you see, as the car is passing, he drops one hand in his pocket, he drops
I
the other
pushed
hand on
her.
the hood. Okay, now let's see what he's taking out. Well, he's taking out his phone. I'm gonna look at his phone.
Out of my face, and then she came and started swinging. And literally, I was like, I'm trying to hold myself back, and I'm like, look.
Okay, I don't know what's going on.
I was like, you know what? Let me.
Now look, you see how you grab his crotch? Let's go back. Let's go back. Let's go back. 'Cause I gotta pause it again.
Just like a lot of black women, they always come in your face because they want to think that they got a bigger dick than you.
Okay, now
All right, so I pushed her.
I try to pause it. Okay, sorry about that.
Out of my
There we
face.
go. Now look, she looks at her nails, right? So she looks at her nails and then she
And then
puts
she
on her mask.
came and started swinging.
Now watch,
And literally, I was like,
watch,
I was
watch,
trying to hold myself back. And I'm like, look.
watch.
I was like, you know
Right there. See? Grab this crotch.
what? Let me know you're involved. Let me check grabbing.
Okay. Now, you see this hand signal that he's doing right here? Pam do that a lot. When she walk around the house, she touch her thigh and she'll space out her pinky finger, right? But all of her other fingers are close together, and she space out her pinky finger. Okay,
Scratch.
right there. Okay, that's one of the hand signals that they do. Okay,
Yeah, fuck you too. Talk about the whole world's against me. I got every right to defend myself from any sort of psychological threat and psychological.
what is called psychological violence is what it is. You have the right to protect yourself because courts have recognized that psychological violence can be just as uh, uh, harmful and hurtful than physical uh, violence. Okay, and so when you are defending yourself against somebody who's running a psychological attack on you, you have every right to defend yourself, right?
Logical warfare. Okay? Alright, so you can go ahead with that shit.
Yeah, she attacked me. She started punching.
I guess I have
Punching me, she hit me in the jaw a couple of times, and I just stood there. I take it, you know what I'm saying? I try to block her, but she got a few in. And like I said, I didn't fight back. I didn't fight her back. I mean, I pushed her when she was all in my face, spitting in my face, and then when she put her hands on me, I pushed her again, you know. And the second time when I pushed her because she hit me, she punched me in the jaw, and I pushed her ass hard, she fell on the floor, right? And then she got up and she's like, "Oh, you know, I can kill you right now. You at my house, I could kill you." I was like, "Yeah, Pamela, all right, whatever, go ahead." "Oh, you lucky I love my kids." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, that's what they wanted, right? That's what they want. I'm like, "Yo, you think you gonna get away with murdering me? First of all, you started the shit. Okay, the minute you come in my personal space, right, all up in my face, the minute that spit hit me, guess what? That's assault, all right?" And I'm defending myself because I knew this was happening. I knew this was gonna happen. The way they've been using her to target me lately in a more aggressive manner, you know. So she's like, "Oh, you crazy. You need a therapy." I said, "Listen, I've been in therapy. Yeah, I need a therapy. No, I don't need a therapy. I'm fine." A woman who, if you go into her house, you go in her bedroom is messy as hell. Clothes all over the floor, everything all over the damn floor. Okay, and it's been like that shit for years. I used to clean it, and then she would dirty it again. I used to clean it, bad back and all. Okay, she'd go to visit her mother with the kids. I would clean up her entire apartment from top to bottom. Okay, and then she come home and a month later, she'd throw all that shit back on the floor. All right, but I'm crazy. Yeah, okay. Uh, what y'all didn't count on was that Nigel was actually a smart brother. Okay, that Nigel's gonna figure this shit out. And Nigel's gonna expose no matter what they cost. That Nigel's gonna expose it. Okay. Even today, somebody said building a message about, "Oh, he's a strong one." Yeah, I am a strong one. Okay. So
every right to protect myself. And they try to make it seem like, oh, it's all the matter. Y'all can keep up the game. You're lucky.
exactly. She
I'm like, whatever, Pamela. They're not gonna catch me into no trap. She kept punching me.
okay. So let's go to the next video.
So they had this lady here on the bus targeting me. Oh, look at her grabbing her foot. Oh, she grabbed her crotch.
Now again, I got off the bus walking across the street, and you'll see this
So
woman.
they had this lady here on the bus targeting
This the woman wearing purple targeting me. Now look at this woman as she sees me. All right, look at where she. I want you to see where she puts her hands.
me.
Look, this is how the Asian man grab his crotch. I will see what she does. She grab her crotch. Okay, right there. You see it at the top of the screen, right there. Matter of fact, let me zoom in so you guys can see. Okay, let me start over.
So they had this lady here on the bus targeting me.
Okay, right there. Now they were targeting
Oh,
me.
look.
Now when she does that, because these should happen before the past, and the word pussy out loud come into my mind again. This is the conditioning due to the remote. I'm sorry, due to the silent sound spectrum. Okay, but when they do those things, when women do those things, they don't. That I've already reconditioned my mind not to even think about that. But I'm just referencing it now to give you guys an example of what used to happen. Okay, so yeah,
Look at her grabbing her foot. Oh, she grabbed her crotch. She grabbed between her pussy. Oh my goodness. Oh.
Now look. You see what I talk about when I talk about the pointed finger? Okay, so now this, let me,
So they had this lady here on the bus
yeah,
targeting me. Oh, look at her. Look at her
yeah,
grabbing her pussy. Oh, she grabbed her crotch. She grabbed
she's
between her
doing
pussy.
that. So bad. Look, you
Oh
see
my.
the point? You see that? Again, I told you guys about that police detective when I used to leave work, and every time I take the stairs, he's always on this the bottom of the staircase. Now, this is every time I take. Normally, I would take the elevator to the ground level, okay? But every time I go down that stairs, he was there, okay? Not understanding at the time that it was the technology that was instructing me to take the stairs because he was with me, okay? Again, exposing the shit. So then, all of a sudden, start seeing people, doing this, and whenever I would walk by, they would do this, you know.
Goodness. See, this is the shit. Now the woman doing it. Now the woman is
Okay,
doing it.
all right. So I'm talking to you again, right? So, yeah. Anyway, let's move on. So as I
Okay,
got
well
on
then.
the bus
Yeah, they
driver
have.
leaned over, and the bottom of the and when you walk into the bus, right, it's like a painted yellow line. He leaned over out of the up from the plexiglass, whatever it is, to look down at the at the line, the yellow line. Because when I look down, I'm like, okay, it's the yellow line. So, yeah, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not yellow motherfuckers, y'all are. Okay, that's why y'all doing this, right? Y'all think y'all can get away with this shit? Nope.
Her ass on the bus targeting me and shit. I started talking her ass back too. We were both giving each other the middle finger. Yeah, so uh, now they had another old lady on this bus targeting me. But that's okay. You know, I know their game. So, like when me and Pam was arguing, she was like, you know, I said to her, I said, listen, a couple of years into into us being together, each other talking, but she was like, no, no. 2 weeks when we dated, when we first went on a date, you didn't speak to me for 2 weeks because you thought I was targeting you. I said, yeah, yeah, that's right, that's true. I remember that, yes.
And check this out. So when I talked to her about that, right, she stopped talking to me for like 2 years. I didn't receive any type of targeting from her at all. Okay, and then after that 2 years is when she started targeting.
Right, but then after that, you stopped.
I think this was when Ethan was born. When Ethan was born, they didn't put my last name on Ethan's birth certificate, and it was done purposely. Okay, it was done purposely, and because then they were trying to use that as, and even listen, even me and Pam, we went back to the hospital, we paid the money to have his last name, my last name added onto the birth certificate. We paid the money, right? When we received his new birth certificate, m- my last name wasn't on there. Okay, and then like I said, the past 2 years or so, they've been sending me subliminal message about Ethan is not my son because again of his light skin complexion. you know, if my son is he's light, he's lighter than me, okay? Okay, so and I think maybe that's, I'm not sure if it's true or not. Like I said, with Bryce, I took a DNA test. With Ethan, I said to myself, I was going to take a DNA test with Ethan just to, put the shit to rest. And then maybe the reason why they were having Pam target me the way that she was targeting me so aggressively, in the hopes that we will get into physical altercation so they can arrest me so she can get away with her lying self. Okay, if that's the fact. But I will do a DNA test. I called Ethan earlier when I got in, and his phone was turned off. So she turned his phone off. Okay, because when I left, his phone was on the charger, so I know his phone was charged. So she literally, excuse me, she turned his phone off. Okay, so again, this is what they do, right? And again, a lot of women who are involved in this cult, and I'm gonna say this to you, brothers, whether you're black or white, that a lot of women who are lying about their who the father of the children is, so they belong to this cult. Okay, they belong to this cult, and they can find anyone to put as the father. I'll make you believe they say, okay, well, this person, I'm pregnant, and this person, I slept with two people, and this person don't even want to be bothered. So I'm not going to tell the other guy that I slept with somebody else. I let him take the role as the father. Okay, this shit like this happens all the time. It happens all the time. Okay, and a big part of that is because again, to me, I consider it to be you know financial theft, but they get away with it because even 10, 15 years, or even when the child is an adult, right? You don't get that money back. You don't. It is one of the greatest racketeering scheme that America has ever created. Okay.
Right? I said, yeah, but then after that, you stopped. Right?
Okay.
All
So let's go.
right? Because you all participated.
Wait.
So,
So
what does that tell you?
crossing the street. Let me see
Because
here.
you thought I was targeting you. I said, yeah, yeah, that's right. That's true. I remember that, yes. Right? But then after that, you stopped.
Crossing the street.
Right?
Oh,
Psychological
jurisdiction.
issues. Then you say to me now, I have deep psychological issues.
You'll see.
Right?
But watch. You'll see here.
I said,
Let me see if I can zoom in.
yeah, but then after that, you stopped. Right? So, let me, is this thing? Okay, so, and I'm like, she's like, well, she's like, well, yeah, you have such deep psychological issue. I'm like, okay, well then, hey, when she said that, I'm like, okay, well, if you're saying that, but when I tell you, you said to me that you don't believe me, that you don't believe none of this was happening to me, right? That's what you said. You told me
Because they've been trained to deny everything that you say is happening to you, right? Particularly if the person is your handler. Okay, I tell you, I can tell you how many nights that I woke up in the middle of the night and she's on the bed, up, standing over me. And when I wake up and I said to her, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Oh, nothing," and then she leaves out the room. Okay,
you don't
so that
believe
should
me,
tell you.
right? So, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? What type of person that she is?
Okay.
That if somebody if she's
Now I switched the camera because it was a young kid, Jewish kid that was walking, and he was targeting me. Okay, so hence is where you'll see the camera switch. I'm gonna turn off the audio because I'm gonna talk through this. I don't want the because I want to repeat what I said to you. So you'll see him here. Okay, you'll see when what happens is that when they do this, they'll take their hand and they'll put it across their chin and then swipe down, right? And what that will do is it'll come to like when you if you take your hand, one of your hand, put it right underneath your chin, right underneath your lip, I should say, right? And then you swipe it down and you come down. And what it does when you look at your finger, you look at your finger, right? So you have your thumb touching your pointed finger, and what that does is like a teardrop, right? So it's like crying, like oh you're gonna be crying, what have you, such and such, right? Look, all right, and then as you walk past, you'll see he raise his hand. I didn't turn the phone, but he stick his finger in his ears. Okay. So as I was saying, let me as I was saying, it's like so when I tell Pam this was happening to me, she denied it. She knew I was in therapy. They had me on medication, but yet, right? Yet, okay, even though again I'm not in my right frame of mind because I'm psychologically being manipulated and targeted in ways that I didn't quite understand. I didn't really know how to you know, really get a hold of what was happening, even though I understand what's happening. I didn't develop enough uh, um, counter, right, uh, programming to where, particularly, like when it came to her, like I had no defense mechanism in terms of her as targeting me. I didn't know what to do. So the emotional highs and lows were, constant, right? Because there are times when she started talking to me and I literally like stop the effing car, Pam, and I would get out of the car and just walk back, right, and go home. This is how it was. And I said, listen, I understand that, you know, what was happening with me, the effect it had on you, but now that when within the past year, I realized that she knew. She may not knew the total extent, but she knew. She had been told. And I should have I knew something was up because when we went to go back and change the birth certificate in Ethan to Ethan to Ethan to have my last name, the look on her face, it was like somebody just told her something. 'Cause her eyes watered up uh when she met me, right? Because I left work early and I met her, and her eyes watered up and she met me. So she knew, right? So she knew. When I think back about it, she knew. She knew. She knew. And again, like I said, these people, they'll send people in your life to wreak havoc, to give you STDs, or to claim that you give them STDs, to drug you, poison you, manipulate your mind. Who knows what else? To give you cancer, inject you with cancer, or put it in your milk or what have you. They do a whole host of things, right? Or to try to convert you and recruit you into their cult. Oh, boy.
Twice, right? Actually, why would you have two children by a crazy person,
So
right?
it's
Yeah, I'm
funny.
like,
You know what I'm saying? And this is the
You,
shit
you, you see these two guys passing by, right? So Pam had sent me a post on Facebook of this guy and this girl dressed in like a pink pants suit, right? Okay. And she like, what do you think about that? I was like, first of all, I don't wear pink. I said I like to hold on to some of my, you know, um, old masculine ways. I would say, And I said that you would not be seeing me wearing pink. I said I'll wear fuchsia color, which is it's not really. I mean, it's pink, but it's like a different. I shouldn't say actually it's salmon, right? Like a salmon color, but which is not really pink. I know it's like an orange pink look to it, but full on pink, heck no. And so here you see these two guys that are wearing pink,
right? Actually, why would you
and
why
one of
would
them
you
wearing
have
pink, the other one has a pink striped
two
shirt.
children by
Never
a
seen
crazy
that
person,
before.
right?
yeah, I'm like,
You know what I'm saying? And
like,
this is the shit that I'm talking about with her.
Yeah, so at times you like, well, something psychological wrong with you. I said, okay, but what I was going through. I told you, but you clearly didn't believe me. Okay, had two kids for me, and then we get into arguments. Then you're like, oh, yeah, something is psychologically wrong with you. Yeah, you need to. Are you seeing your therapist? Are you taking your medication? And blah blah blah. Right? She does. You see, she wants to ignore what's happening to me when it's convenient for her. Okay, when I'm doing all the work, right? When I tell her, listen, my head is hurting me, my back is hurting me, I'm getting asthma headache. She laying in bed, I'm taking care of the kids, right? When I had the muscle tearing in my buttocks, could barely walk, she had me take the kids home with me. She didn't say, hey, Nigel, since you can't walk or anything like that, let me keep the kids. No, no. Every time my back went out, I had to take the kids with me. I'm on the bus, my back is killing me, I can barely walk. I had to take the kids. When I asked her, she like, no. She must have taken the kids one time, because I couldn't get out of bed to come and get them, right? So when it's convenience for her, all of a sudden I'm not crazy, right? But then we get into an argument and I accuse her of talking to me, then all of a sudden I'm crazy. Okay, this is what I had to deal with over the years, despite of the love that I have for this woman, and a lot of it is because I was conditioned emotionally to have an attachment, a bond to her. Okay, as I was reading, on coercive persuasion.
She plays these games because she's a malignant narcissist. Okay, they've made her into being that way,
Like
right?
I said, they have made her. This is the type of personality that they create within people. Okay, including TIs. Okay,
And like I
including
said, when
myself
people
at one point.
participate in this program, they feel that nothing is going to be happen to them, because again the authorities giving them. We've seen this Stanley Milgram experiment, and every time they do that experiment, what happens? People follow the authoritative person in doing things that
Now again, you'll see as I approach these two guys right here, these two gentlemen, these two guys. I wouldn't even call them gentlemen, but these
giving
two
them.
guys
We've
right
seen
here.
this
So
Stanley
they
Milgram
be standing
experiment,
there.
and every
As I
time
get
they do
close,
that experiment, what happens? People
what?
follow the
See, he does the same thing the kid did with the hands up on the bottom of his lip, right? Bringing it down.
authoritative
Okay,
uh,
right there. And he points again, index finger. I'll talk about pointing the finger. I'll talk about
person
right. Okay, again, right.
in
And then you'll see he puts his hand on his thigh. Like I said, what Pam did, the Asian guy did. Pam did it all the time. I keep saying that. I said, why when you walk, there are times when, like I said, there are times when she doesn't do it. Like I said, when she's doing the compensation drill, she'll have her hands free, not touching her or anything like that. But she's exaggerating her movement of whichever arm that's opposite from the arm that's towards me, right? Because the other arm is the one where when she swings it backwards is where she'll either open up her fingers with a palm fixation drill or put it behind her back or what have you. So you'll see he does again that signal, that hand signal.
doing
Okay,
things that
all right.
can kill or seriously harm an individual. We've seen this shit play out over and over. So, like I said, I know what this program is, and like I tell them all the time, you can't fool me anymore. Okay? I don't care what you say. You're a
So
bunch of liars.
what we have here is the villainization of a target. Okay, of a target. And again, if you Dantelline Jones' book called Mind Control Language Pattern. Let's go. Mind. Why for some reason my keyboard is again just showing you guys how they manipulate shit. You know, like I've never had my keyboard is plugged in. Okay, all of a sudden now it's I can't type. Okay, so what they do with this is when I'm saying okay it's not working, meaning that when I do these videos to explain what is being done to me, they're like, well, that's not working. It ain't working for you. That's not working. So again, this is what they do, and like I said, I'm gonna expose them in a way in which they didn't think that they would be exposed. So now all of a sudden now, my keyboard is not working. Okay, my keyboard is literally not working. Let's see if I can get it to work. Oh, nope, can't get it to work. I guess they don't want me to pull up any more sources. Okay, see, this is what is happening. So let me okay, why is this on? So what happened? See here, they have basically hacked into my computer and put the Windows Ink workspace on. Okay, and that should not be on. Okay, so now I have to uh, change this. Okay, show Windows Ink workspace. Nope. All right, so maybe now I can get it to work. Okay, let's see here. Actually, that still doesn't work. Well, you guys are. I don't know if yeah, you guys are seeing it right there. I can't type anymore because uh, they've literally um, made it so that way I cannot, and the keyboard is connected. Okay, it is connected. Um, Let's see. Let me try. See if I remember how to do this. Uh, okay. Let's see if that's it. No. Okay. Let's try that one. Nope. 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 Okay. I don't know. Maybe it's control. I did hit control here. Control. Okay. So, all right. So I cannot. You see, this is what they do, right? When I start to pull up sources and stuff like that, they don't want me to pull up any sources. This is what they'll do. Okay. Basically, trying to shut me down from speaking the truth. You know, this is what they do. Okay. And unfortunately, um, okay, so that's why they probably did that. All right. So when I went to pause the video, so I can figure out what's going on. It paused at exactly 151:32. Okay, so like I said, so when I pause the video to before it stops, it paused at 151:32. Now, I was saying that you would think that is the technology. I mean, that is supernatural, but it's not. This is again, in J. Lipton, the eight criteria of thought reform is to make the subject believe that something supernatural is happening. And in this case, something that's mystical, right? Like something that's psychic, whatever, what have you. Okay, mystical stuff like that, but it's not. This is technology based. This is technology silence on spectrum that's doing this as along with the microwave radio wave frequency, right? Which is silence on spectrum is based off of that. Okay, so this is the book. It's called Mind Control and Language Pattern by Danteline Jones, and I want you to read here what he says. Okay. Mind control language patterns are spoken phrases that can act as triggers to the people who hear them. In short, they influence and control how we respond and cause us to be influenced to do things without our knowing. These language patterns are not fantasies but are based on documented use that come from psychology, hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, and studies of human behavior. Mind control language patterns can be used to help and hurt. One can use mind control language patterns to create positive and lasting changes in people, as well as feelings of trust, love, and affection. They can also be used to induce amnesia, fear, insecurities, and doubt. These types of patterns are what we call dark patterns. I've seen the results of these dark patterns and destructive language patterns. They are devious because most people don't even know they're happened. They live life half heartedly with no purpose because someone meant to hurt them. If you know of anyone using these mind control language pattern to injure you, you have every right to act and stop them. Okay, so just remember that. And I talked about this. I said this. So he says, but there is a bright side to all of this. Mind control language patterns like the ones in this book are also there to benefit you and anyone who knows them. Using these skills, I've seen people overcome lifelong phobias and land million-dollar contracts. You can use these skills just as easily to land the perfect job. Blah blah blah. So during, if you do a comparative study, you can see during the 80s and 90s, a lot of managers within corporate America were taking new linguistic classes, right, and learning how to what was supposed to influence their employee to work harder, work longer, to be more focused. But a lot of times they were used to manipulate employees to work in late hours to try to make them feel like, they'll lose their job and stuff like that. And not also managers in corporate America, but anybody. Okay. So, like I said, this stuff is happening, and we had no clue. We were totally ignorant. But there were a large portion of society, usually white society, that knew about this, know how to use this. The police department, for example, New York City Police Department in the '80s, when in the drug war, right, with crack cocaine, the FBI had implanted its agents in major metropolitan police department all across America. This is where police officers learn how to engage in coercive persuasion in order to get suspects who were not guilty of crimes to admit to committing crimes in what is called false confession. The use of psychological and coercive persuasion. Okay, so again, you guys are not, I really need you guys to really pay attention and listen, right? And the only way that you're going to uh, help yourself from becoming a further harm psychologically, right, from the psychological program is to understand and study what is being done to you. Okay. So with that being said, I was going to finish up the video, but this recording is venturing on uh, 2 hours, so I am going to cut this video short. Not short, but I'm going to let it. Actually, not this one.
All right, so me and Pam just had it out.
Okay, okay.
So they had this
All right,
lady here on the
what
bus,
we got here?
right? A moving truck. See, targeting and selecting those who they are afraid for whatever
Right.
reason.
So then I get to my apartment building and they
Okay,
stick a red cup.
all right. And this
Right.
is not going to start with me or any other TI, but it's going to start with other people's children, their
As well as the
sisters,
moving
their
truck was
brothers, their
passing by.
mothers, their
Right.
fathers,
Because they want me to move. I
their
mean,
aunts, their uncles, their best
you're right.
friends, their nieces,
If I
their
can stay as
nephews.
long as I can, I will. You know,
Okay,
like I said, until my situation improves where I can afford to move,
so
then I
yeah,
will.
you hear
But
sirens.
like I said, you know where I live. I'll
Tell
knock on
you,
my door.
see, every time I say something that's spot on, they'll start with the sirens. Okay. Like I tell Pep, I said, listen, you can deny it all you want. I'm not going to believe you because I know you're a liar, right? I know exactly you know what you're doing because when I do some things back, or if I say I'm leaving because you're targeting me, when I come back the next day,
Right. And then also she started doing that sniffling thing. And then my ex called me yesterday. I called her back today to let her know what's happening. And she started doing the whole sniffling thing too. Yeah. Everything I'm talking to her, this is what she's doing. Right. So I don't know if they're trying to turn me off a woman. Like I said, I'm not seeking any relationship with my ex. Besides, we are very good friends. You know, um, and that's it. She lives in a different state, and you know, she has her own issues that she has to deal with. And I don't, she has children, so I'm not trying to bring my issue, especially with these people, because once you end up talking to somebody, they will target that individual also. Okay, as Dr. John Hall said in a news interview of a woman he was dating, and he totally said that I'm a target individual, and if you're going to date me, there's a chance that they'll come after you too. And guess what they did? They came after this woman. They drugged her. They raped her. Okay, it was on the news. All right, and so the signs of entry, break-in, police report, all that stuff. Me, I went to the police. So what's happening to me, and they were like, you need professional help because that is the talking point because they are behind, they're a part of this, right? So they're not going to do an investigation into your claims because they are the culprit also. They are engaging in this. They are the ones that are spreading misinformation and rumors, all right, to those in the community that you live in. Okay, the previous two videos that I uploaded, where you see the police with the fire, with the firecrackers and stuff like that was happening, that was all orchestrated, and I narrated the whole thing so you guys can hear. It was all orchestrated. As soon as I turned that corner, all of a sudden, fireworks. Then standing at the bus stop, somebody came and I wasn't looking too. You know, that's why in one of the videos you hear me ask the guy that was with the young woman. I was like, "Hey, did you do that?" He was like, "Nah, that wasn't me. What have you?" Because they were the only ones that were standing there. I didn't see anybody else come over there. So maybe when I wasn't looking, somebody ran over there, and then immediately after that, as that M80 went off, all you see all these police cars, come converge down, right? Okay, so yeah, yeah. Like I said, I'm putting it out there so people can see what it is these people are doing, what they've been up to. Okay, like I said, they're not getting away with this shit any longer. So anyway, I will see you guys on the next video.